On this episode of the Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast, I talk about my awesome ghost hunting experience at the Mid Orange Correctional Facility, alien streetlights, Edgegrave Dave reviews Steamboat, and much more. So let's go.
Do aliens exist, and are they among us? Are weird creatures lurking in the darkness? Do evil entities hide in the shadows of your bedroom while you sleep? Join us as we explore all this and more on the Warped Reality Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast. I am your host, Ghost Joe. The Natman couldn't make it tonight. I tried getting some cool guest co-hosts and stuff, but that fell through also. So you're stuck with me for the whole episode. I'm sorry. Please don't turn me off. I promise you it's going to be a great show. We have a lot of things to talk about. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know we have some great interviews coming up as well. I just recently did an interview with Mr. Kent Wilson, who is the podcast host of the Paranormal Addicts podcast on the Get Haunted Network. Awesome dude. He has a ton of experience in ghost hunting and everything. And it was really cool talking to him. So I can't wait to get that out there for you guys. Plus, I have many other interviews lined up that I can't wait to get to as well. So anyway, let me tell you about my experience this past weekend. Well, last weekend, I guess you could say now. So on April 12th, I attended a Get Haunted event at the closed and haunted Mid Orange Correctional Facility in Warwick, New York. Let me tell you, I had a freaking blast. The night started with about 40 of us gathered in the main building where we met the awesome Get Haunted staff, heard some of their stories, and had some pre-ghost hunt snacks. Around 8:30 p.m., after being split into 3 groups, we were brought to the first location, which was A3, where we were told to step into the doorways of the now unoccupied rooms. Or are they? Cat balls were set up, which is a fairly new tool in the ghost detection thing. Maybe we'll do a segment on that at one point. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's pretty cool. Some shadows and movements were seen by others inside of on the other side of a closed door, which looked like someone pacing actually, which was pretty cool. And there was nobody on the other side of that as well. We were then led into an old rec area where a small flashlight was set up in the doorway. We then performed an exercise called the human pendulum. This is where someone is sort of a conduit to the spirit in a way. We all stand around the person and ask the spirit a question, and depending on a yes or a no, the person will sway either forwards or backwards. As we were asking some of these questions, we were also asking the spirit to turn on and off the flashlight, and in most cases, it obliged, which was pretty cool, you know? So we were then brought to the admin building. We were there for quite some time. We looked, we looked at the hallway with some infrared lights and laser grid lights and stuff to try to spot some movement. I don't think we really experienced much here, but we did get some pretty cool answers on the Necrophonic app, which was awesome. Before leaving this area, though, we decided to try the human pendulum again, hopefully with the same success rate that we had in the first location. Only this time, yours truly had to try it out for himself. It was definitely a very cool experience. Although I didn't feel like anyone was actually pushing me, I was definitely swaying back and forth when the questions were being asked. So yeah, so it was pretty cool. One of our guides had even had her arm pushed down while trying to take a picture by an unseen force. The unseen force wasn't trying to take a picture, like she was trying to take a picture and the unseen force pushed her hand down. After a much needed break with some heat because it was freaking freezing that day, we then headed into the mess hall area with the Get Haunted fearless co-leader, Mr. Rob Stakowitz, where we heard some cool stories and I was chosen to perform an EVP session with my own questions. Upon listening back, we did get a very clear EVP. I wanted to play it for you guys this week, but I haven't gotten it provided to me yet. I promise as soon as I get it, you guys are going to hear it. So the first thing that we thought it had said, well, the first thing I said was, hey, what's going on? Is there anybody here with us tonight? That's what I said, right? And then I waited a few seconds. When we listened back, we heard a voice after I had said that. We all agreed that the voice said welcome. And then they were like, oh, but it has some kind of initial after it, like one letter or initial or something. And I said, could it be P? As in Peter. And they were like, yeah, that's what it is. Why would you say that? I said, well, when I started in corrections, I'm still a corrections officer, but when I start in corrections, that's what the inmates call me because I have a long last name that starts with the letter P. So they call me P. After I said, hey, what's going on? Whoever answered said, welcome, P. So I thought that was really, really cool. And nobody there knew that. So that was pretty awesome. So then we sat down in a very dark room for a while where many people seem to have had some cool experiences seeing dancing lights and shadow figures. I unfortunately didn't experience anything here, but it was cool nonetheless. So after that, we were able to free roam the whole facility. This was the awesome part. To be honest, I didn't trust myself alone. Not that I'm scared, okay? I'm not scared. But because I have a terrible sense of direction, and I was worried that I'd get lost and wind up with the crew finding me standing facing in the corner a la Blair Witch, I latched on to another group where we went into the admin building, and I found secret tunnels. Well, no, I didn't find them. We were looking for the secret tunnels. But mind you, there was a big-ass sign that said, "Tunnels, this way," with an arrow. So not very secretive, not very discreet. You know what I'm saying? But after that, we realized, after walking down them for a while, we're like, you know what, this is just a really long tunnel. So we ended up turning back, and then they decided to tap out after that. It was around 2 a.m. at this point, but I was still determined to get my full experience, As I was walking through the soccer field to get near the main area, I realized that there was no one around me. It was like eerily quiet, even though there were a bunch of people still there. All I could hear was the crunch of my boots hitting the snowy field, but something seemed off, As I began listening closer, I realized that there was another set of feet walking directly behind me. I stopped for a moment, then began to walk again. And after another second, I heard it again. I stopped short, and then the steps continued for an extra beat. So I knew I definitely wasn't alone on that field. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I ran the hell so fast out of that. No, I'm just kidding. I said in a firm voice, I got all correction officer, you know what I'm saying? I said in a firm voice, I said, "Hey, inmate, you know better than that. You know you have to walk in front of me, not behind me. Get in front of me." After that, the phantom footsteps disappeared. That was awesome. Once I got to the other side of the field and shook off that experience, I met up with another investigator. He wasn't done yet either exploring. I wanted to check out Cottage B1, where the inmate Charles McBride supposedly unalived himself. It is so cool being in there with one other person, too. We had heard some voices and footsteps, but besides that, I think the spirits of the Mid Orange Correctional Facility were kind of tired of us being there and performing for us at that point. We called it a night at 3 a.m. and walked away with some awesome experiences. Once in my car, I spoke aloud if anyone was attached to me to stay on the grounds and that they weren't welcome with me. I highly recommend going to this place for a ghost hunt, and especially with the Get Haunted crew. They made it fun, spooky, and super informative. Check out all of their socials in my show notes, as always. And while you're at it, check out all of the great paranormal program that they offer. You will not be disappointed, and I can't wait for the next one.
Out of this world news.
So back in February, scientists had discovered something very interesting about the planet Proxima Centauri B. Using the images captured from the amazing James Webb Telescope, they had discovered what appears to be artificial lights emanating from the planet, similar to basically what New York City looks like from space. I think that the biggest question here is, what the hell put those lights on this planet? Mind you, Proxima, I don't even know how to say it. Excuse me. Proxima B is 4.25 light years away from us, which is equal to 1 trillion miles. To put it into perspective, you would have to circle the Earth more than 1 billion times to equal that distance. The telescope will be monitoring this planet for the next few months to try to determine the source of these lights. Also, the James Webb Telescope had recently detected DMS, which is a molecule only produced by living organisms on the planet K2-18b, which is 124 light years away and is said to have a hydrogen-rich atmosphere over a potential ocean. You see, you learn stuff here on the Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast, right?
Horrible reviews with Edgegrave David.
A scream is a wish your heart makes. All right, guys, Edgewave Dave is here. And you want to know the wish that my heart made? It was just getting back from the magical murderous kingdom and seeing the iconic event film of Steamboat. And I had so much fun on this ton of metal that was being stalked by this ridiculous rodent that What the hell was that? Anyway, be my guest while we discuss this awesome new film, Steamboat. I am literally gushing from ear to ear. Have fears? I say cheer. At the time of this recording, this film only had a limited theatrical release, and I'm sure that by now you can catch it on mostly every streaming service. Anytime that David Howard Thornton puts out a new horror flick, to Ghost Joe and I anyway, it's like a national holiday. Call us a little sick, call us a little crazy, but full scream ahead, it's damn true. And the fact that this was filmed on a mostly decommissioned Staten Island ferry and showing the Staten Island ferry terminal really hits home for us. For those of you who do not know, Ghost Joe, the Nat Man, and I are all a bunch of Staten Island boys. And though we might not live there anymore, that New York state of mind is never far from our hearts. And the first mates aboard this ship seeing this film theatrically, they're all mostly from Staten Island too. That scene from Terrifier 3 being in the Staten Island Mall and other areas around the island, you know, the producers of both Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3, and The Mean One, all starring David Howard Thornton, produced this very film. So, let's get aboard. Edge, grave warning, spoiler alert ahead. There is no getting around this public news. The rights to the very first appearance of Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie in 1928, those rights went away. They went into the public domain January of 2024, and a day later, Steamboat was announced. And believe it or not, this is not our first dance with Mickey Mouse as a horror character. Just last year, we had a mass killer that donned the Mickey Mouse mask in the horror film Mousetrap. But what's original about this film is how they went about it. We've already had 2 Winnie the Pooh movies in the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, and I just found out they're making a Poohverse. Does everything have to be Marvel, where they're making a Bambi and a Pinocchio? Bambi? Wait a second. How are they going to do that? Oh, man, I'm getting those Cocaine Bear vibes. But this was such an original way of how they went about this film that this little low-budget movie sure had a big effort. And that effort had not only a focus on extreme gore, similar to the Terrifier series, but maybe just a little bit less, with shifting a focus on a more comedic vibe. They really went very strong in 3 areas. They went with comedy, they went with horror, and they went with dropping a ton of references to other Disney films. Don't believe me? You gotta hear this. Steamboat Willie actually goes after Disney princesses, and they drop references like, "We're gonna freeze, the water's cold, so let it go." We have a bunch of girls that are dressed up like Disney princesses aboard the Staten Island ferry for a birthday party, and the birthday girl, that's Cinderella, did appear in Terrifier 2, a little bit in 3 as well. We have Cindy dressed as Cinderella. We have Ari dressed as Ariel. Jazzy as Jasmine. Bella dressed as Belle. Rory dressed as Aurora. What is going on here? We even have a parody of Walt Disney himself and a whole backstory about Steamboat Willie being a monster under the boat that shows Steamboat Willie parody footage and Walt, otherwise known as Walter. The way that they went about these creative decisions was thought out very, very well, and showing that backstory as basically a parody of the Steamboat Willie cartoon. This film is unrated, and they were so careful getting in as much Disney on Disney knowledge as they possibly could. I also noticed that they very carefully gave a Gatorade bottle to a homeless man on the ship, and they took off the wrapper. You know, when it comes to copyrights and things like that, things do have to be very careful. They did a remarkable job at pushing the edge as far as they could so that the audience can see exactly what they want to get across, but not crossing any copyright infringements. Now for the basic premise of the movie. You have all different people that are getting on the boat to cross over to the other side of Manhattan. You have a main character that's from Minnesota. She has all the rules of every great kind of final girl trying to get her start in New York City. You have those Disney princess birthday girls. And then you have the mother and son of a New York official that's on the boat. If this is like a mayor's son, I really don't know why he'd even be aboard the Staten Island ferry. I really have to give that kid a lot of credit. He's kind of mute throughout most of it, but he certainly does play his part. Steamboat Willie just looks about as ridiculous as you can possibly think of it. He's a filthy gray rat. He has the hat, he's got the little shorts, and they miniaturized him. He kind of reminds me, if anybody out there remembers the old Razzmatazz, that's by the Raritan Bay. There used to be that Amboy multiplex, and they had Razzmatazz across the street in the Sayreville section of New Jersey. His fur reminded me of kind of like an offbeat Chuck E. Cheese Razzmatazz type character, and he whistles. When he's coming, there's all sorts of memorable music whistling that is going on. They did a really great job. But the fact that he's miniature, about the size of Mickey Mouse, and then when the camera slowly does a close-up and they show his face, it's just pure magic. Because looking at the poster and everything like that, I thought that he'd be a hell of a lot taller. But when they show the kills, and as brutal as they are, you can't help but to laugh at some of the cartoon animated antics that he does, except that it's not animated. They do little close-ups with that little doot-doot twinkling of his eyes. They do kind of that, that's all, folks, where there's that cartoon kind of circle closing in on him. The way that he was so jolly about this, and he kind of made that squeak, that, gotta do a special shout out to Morgan Grave, my daughter, for that one, supplying both some of the singing and some of the squeaks in the beginning of this review. I just thought that he was just so kind of jolly and gleeful and extremely creative. There are some kills that are absolutely shocking, and they don't keep you there for very long because, as I had just mentioned, the humor really does balance it out very well. But the acting from everybody definitely has that very low budget feel. It's definitely something that I would come to expect from a movie like this. The kills are extremely gory, like I had mentioned earlier, and some of them are just plain shocking, really pushing the envelope of that creativity that we've known and loved from David Howard Thornton's work. There were moments in the film where I was just flat out laughing. The entertainment factor is really incredible. But then there were moments in the film that had some of the most shocking kills and close-ups of certain body parts that you might not see every day. They really did a great job with that balance of comedy and that balance of frightful horror. But it's not really going to keep you very long because unlike a lot of other slasher films and unlike the Terrifier series, there really is a great deal of that comedy factor. And that's something that's really needed. I kept thinking to myself, how could something like this possibly end? And the climax is something that's really great because though I don't want to spoil everything for you, you do get to see Minnie Mouse in the movie. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you why. But it's just great where this movie's going. It looks like we are going to get a sequel. All in all, this movie was just a grand old time. Really had a lot of fun with it. Between the special effects, the low budget acting, maybe not the thickest story in the entire world, I'm going to give this movie somewhere to about a 3 to a 3.5 out of 5 graves. But in my heart, it's kind of tough not to shoot this all the way to a 5 out of 5, 100 out of 100, 10 out of 10. But taking every single thing after digesting everything that I've seen, I think that it certainly does deserve about a 3 to a 3.5. Use your own judgment. You're going to have a great time with this one. It might not be for everybody. It might not be for the real faint of heart. It might not be for the real Disney purists out there. I think that this film is getting a lot of people angry. But then again, that and the NBC News edition that they did on this is really only going to gain it some more steam. So I do certainly try to support these films theatrically when I can, and I hope that each of you go ahead and check this one out. I'm very much looking forward to Ghost Joe having a great time with this one, and the Nat Man as well. So, all right, guys, it's time to get out there and whistle while we work. So go ahead and check out Steamboat.
Thank you so much for that awesome review, Edgegrave, as always. Listen, what I love about your reviews is, you give the disclaimer, the spoiler alert and all that, but you never really give too much away to really spoil it for people. So I think that's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. I love your content. And yeah, man, and I'm glad you didn't too, because I definitely want to see Steamboat. As you said, David Howard Thornton, it's like an unhealthy relationship with me and you for that guy. Definitely a man crush on that guy. Awesome actor. Love everything he does. And yeah, I can't wait to see it. So thank you again, Edgegrave. Now on to some paranormal stuff, shall we? Let's talk about one of the most haunted schools in America. Let me take you to Pocatello, Idaho, a seemingly quiet town with a dark secret. Nestled in the heart is Pocatello High School. Pocatello High School. It's hard to say for some reason. A place where history and the paranormal collide. This isn't just any high school. It's a building steeped in tragedy, mystery, and ghostly encounters that have earned its reputation as one of the most haunted schools in the world. The school's haunted history began in 1914 when a devastating fire tore through the original building. Lives were tragically lost, and the school had to be rebuilt from the ashes. Some say the spirits of those who perished in the fire never left, their presence lingering in the halls, classrooms, and shadows of the new structure. But the fire wasn't the only tragedy. Over the decades, the school has been the site of other untimely deaths. One of the most chilling stories involves a young girl who, between the 1930s and the 1950s, is said to have made a suicide pact with a friend. The next day, she hanged herself from the locker. Her spirit is rumored to haunt the school to this day. Her presence felt in the eerie silence of the hallways. And then there's the tale of the wet boy. Legend has it that the young boy drowned in the school's basement swimming pool before it was sealed off and buried beneath the gymnasium. Students and staff have reported seeing dripping, ghostly figures wandering the halls, leaving wet footprints that vanish as quickly as they appear. The library, too, has its own ghostly resident. I knew to stay away from libraries, right? I never went to libraries, and that's why, Have you ever seen the first Ghostbusters? I mean, come on, libraries, man. A woman believed to be a former employee who was left at the altar on her wedding day is said to haunt the space. Heartbroken and distraught, she allegedly took her own life by hanging herself from the library's chandelier. Her spectral figure has been spotted gazing out of the library windows, her sorrowful presence sending chills down the spines of those who see her. Even the gymnasium isn't safe. 2 students once reported seeing a man standing in the rafters, watching them as they played basketball. When they looked again, he was gone. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, unexplained cold spots, and even shadowy figures on camera. The most famous piece of evidence? A 2014 security video showing a shadowy figure emerging from a bathroom and walking down the hallway as the lights flickered ominously. Pocatello High School isn't just a place of learning, it's a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Whether it's the spirits of those lost in the fire, the tragic girl by your locker, or the wet boy from the pool, one thing is certain, this school has stories to tell. The question is, are you brave enough to listen?
This is Haunted eBay. Happy bidding, kiddies!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for some haunted eBay, shall we? So the first item, this one is called, let me get to a good one here for you. This one's called Haunted Timepiece, and it's going for $250 with $7.62 shipping, coming from Columbus, Ohio. And the description goes as follows. Meet Vicky, a gifted medium who lives in a remarkable life. Originating from Illinois, Vicky's extraordinary abilities create a profound impact on those around her. Her husband, a non-believer in the paranormal, struggled to understand and accept her gifts, leading to tension in their relationship. When their daughter inherited the same abilities, Vicky kept silent to protect her child from potential harm. Tragically, Vicky's life was cut short in a senseless drive-by shooting at the age of 32, exactly as foreseen by her grandmother's spirit. Today, Vicky continues to communicate with the living, offering messages from beyond. With her presence, you may receive unexpected insights and guidance from random spirits. Vicky was previously owned by a reputable seller originating from the personal collection, which was acquired from an estate sale. The next item I got is Old Antique Headstone, and it's going for $90, and the shipping, however, is $92.40. So it's actually, the shipping is actually more than the actual product. It is coming from Portales, New Mexico, though. So it's Old Antique Headstone, Paranormal Spirit Active. It has the initials JGH on it. It measures 17 inches tall, 12 inches wide, and 2 inches thick. I found this old headstone about 2 months ago while cleaning out an old half-fallen down barn on some land I just bought around the Fort Summer, New Mexico area. I brought it home with me, and things have been weird since. I first put it on my back porch to clean it. When I started cleaning it, I got this really weird feeling like I was getting dizzy and very cold. Then the porch light blew out. I changed the bulb, and within 5 minutes, it blew out again. For the rest of the week, we had to replace around 15 light bulbs throughout our small house due to them blowing out multiple times, even new bulbs. We had an electrician come out and look over our electrical to make sure we didn't have a surge problem or something. Everything was good. For the next couple of weeks, we kept having all types of electrical problems and had to replace 2 TVs as well. Every time we would go near it, we would feel very cold and hard to breathe. So we decided to move it to my shop across town from where we live. The next day, I went into my shop and turned on the lights, and every bulb blew out, and I started having trouble breathing. Once we moved from our house to my shop, we haven't had any more problems at our house. Excuse me. Once we moved it from our house to the shop, we haven't had any more problems at our house. After keeping it in my shop for a couple of days and having all types of electrical problems, I finally moved it back to the barn in Fort Summer. After that, everything in my shop went back to normal, and I haven't had any more breathing problems. We are planning on building a house on the land we just bought in Fort Summer, and we have to tear the old one down, the barn that is. We want this thing gone so we don't have to deal with it anymore, especially with all the weird stuff with building our new house. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the money one right here. Genuinely Haunted Pet Rock. And it's going for $3,999, but the shipping is free, and it's coming from Canton, Mississippi. It says, Genuinely Haunted Pet Rock. Warning, this is not a normal rock. It is possessed. Seller not responsible for chills, chuckles, or chaos. Meet Rocky. Name may vary based on ghost preference. This certified haunted pet rock comes with the full spectral attachment, meaning it doesn't just sit there, it judges you from beyond the grave. I tried gluing eyes on it for giggles, and it hit me. Seriously. Why this rock is worth $3,999. It's 100% real haunting, verifiable by a totally legit, in parentheses and quotations, totally legit paranormal investigator. And then in parentheses, me at 3 a.m. And then active spirit, previous owner claims it moves on its own, or they have shaky hands. Then there's a mysterious history. It was found on an abandoned asylum, or maybe Home Depot. And then a great conversation starter. Why is there whispering at night? Oh, it's just Rocky. It's low maintenance. Doesn't need food, walks, or love, just your fear. And then what's included? 1 haunted pet rock. May or may not whisper your name. 1 free ghost repellent. Just a spray bottle labeled holy water. You must provide the actual holy water, though. And then disclaimers, because ghosts love lawsuits. Seller is not responsible for unexplained cold spots, missing socks, your cat staring at nothing, sudden urge to watch horror movies, and if Rocky starts levitating, please leave a 5-star review. Perfect gift for paranormal investigators, goths, or people who owe you revenge. Yeah, okay. Hypothetical buyer, question and answer. Is this rock really haunted? Answer. Do you really want to find out? Question. Can I return it if the ghost is annoying? Answer. No refunds. Once it's attached to you, it's your problem now. Question. What if it's just a regular rock? Answer. Then why did your lights just flicker? Absolutely no refunds. Once you buy it, it is now your problem. So, yeah, if you want a haunted pet rock, which doesn't sound very haunted at all, yeah, it's $3,999, but it's free shipping. So, hey, why not, right? But that's going to do it for me, Haunted eBay. Again, the Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast and me, Ghost Joe, we take no responsibility if you happen to purchase any of these items or bid on any of these items and something does or does not happen to you paranormal wise. Bid at your own risk. So that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great week. And thank you, as always, to my buddy Edgegrave Dave. And thank you to Morgan Grave as well for that awesome Mickey Mouse, I guess. Can we say Mickey Mouse? Steamboat impression. That was awesome. Thank you guys for always listening and checking me out. Please check out all of our socials. Check out the Get Haunted Paranormal Network as well. They have great shows. And we're actually on there every Friday at around 5:30 or whatever. I believe it's 5:30 at this point. And we tried a few different time slots, and 5:30 seems to be a pretty good slot for us. So you could go to the Get Haunted Facebook page, and we're up there and with a whole bunch of other great paranormal programming as well. So please check them out. As always, in the show notes. We're always in the show notes, as well as a lot of our friends. So have a great night, everybody, and see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast, and thank you to all of my guests and contributors that help make this show possible. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like to share, questions, comments, or you'd like to be a guest in the show, please leave me a voicemail at 845-600-0744, or you can email me at ghostjoeny@gmail.com. You can do so anonymously if you'd like. Also, please check out our show notes for all social media links of this show and some of our friends. The Warped Reality Paranormal Podcast, uncovering the unseen.